Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed, along with Dan, Justin, and Brad. We're previewing the Elite 8G division tonight. And so we're first going to start with the Dutch Dynasty and look at their quarterback room, which starts with Allen and Herbert, kind of make a real nice top quarterback room. Breece Hall, Pollard, and Penny are the running backs, really light there with two having to start out of that group. Chase, A.J. Brown, Higgins, Olave, Godwin, and DJ Moore are solid. But if you notice, there's an awful lot of Chase and Higgins, both coming from Cincinnati, bring a lot of that Cincinnati offense, and a lot, whether Joe Burrow is injured or healthy, are going to play a role here. Tight ends, Kincaid, being a rookie, and Njoku make this room kind of light because tight ends typically take a bit to really come on strong. So overall, this team lacks depth to make a serious run. So it's really in rebuild mode. Top flight hooker, it has Mahomes, Watson, and Geno. So the quarterbacks are really strong. However, Watson and Geno both have a bye week 5. So that kind of creates a problem by week 5. Unless there's a quick trade early on to solve that quarterback problem. Dobbins, Madison, and Pierce make nice running backs, but they're not top end, and there's only 3 of them to form that room. Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, Judy, Kirk, D-Hop, and Pittman with Shaheed, are all pretty good, but no top end talent outside of Garrett Wilson there. So, like some of the other teams. There's no early picks to sell to get pieces needed to win, and Waller and Goddard are good, but not top 3 tight ends by in most scenarios. So this team just doesn't have the firepower to go get more things. Should it run into some trouble or really have a shot to go win. So it's going to be one of those fringe teams that needs everything to go right once it gets to the playoffs to work its way through. So not saying it can't happen. It's just going to be a rough road in most, likely scenarios. The Fantasy Freak FB, this team has a lot of balance, and I can see how it could compete. I think with some injuries, this team will fall into the rebuild category before we get to the trade deadline, however. The team has Lamar, Carr, and Baker as its quarterbacks, and Levis and O'Connell could get starting time if the pieces, all fall into place. But it could use some of those pieces if they do become quarterbacks, that start to go get things. But I think the more likely scenario is this team is going to be a seller at the deadline. Saquon, Aaron Jones at running back are nice, but one injury away puts CEH and Roschon Johnson into the running back room. And, starting on the bye weeks as we speak right now. Melvin Gordon, DJ Dallas, are also running backs that can cover buys, but they're not going to score enough points to really make a difference. The wide receivers are good, but again, not top end, with Debo being the wide receiver 1. The tight end is definitely the strength of this team, with Mark Andrews and Irv Smith as the starters and Conklin as a backup. So there isn't any extra to move, though. So there's nothing that can be done really to go get additional pieces to make that playoff run. K. Quinn, 545. This team, I think this is one of the toughest teams for me to break down. It's got talent and some depth. However, I'm not sure it will even make the playoffs. The team could take the division title if everything just goes right. But then on the other hand, I'm not sure if it can get its way to the top 2 and get a bye. So it's got Dak, Rodgers, and Goff. So there's 3 quarterbacks there. But they all seem to be, riding towards the end of their careers and one injury away from not being there. Kelsey at tight end always puts this team near the top. And then with Higbee and Laporta and Ferguson behind, it might be good enough. And then the running backs, though, with Mixon, Gibson, and Zeke, it just feels like it's way too shallow and way too opportunistic, with Gibson and Zeke maybe not even having real roles and being so touchdown dependent upon, where they are. The wide receiver room with Tyreek as the number 1, that starts out really well. But then we go to Michael Thomas, JSN, and Boyd, and Curtis Samuel at the other wide receiver spots. It just feels like it's just way too light after Tyreek to really make a real serious run. Mingo is a rookie that's on the squad, and so, he could come into his own mid-season, then it could have something. So it's one of those teams that I just don't know where it stands, and it does have a first round pick. So for next year, so maybe that pick is the trade piece that puts it over the top for that real piece that's needed. The Packer fan, 1984. This team is situated. It appears like a team looking for the lottery pick. It's only got one active quarterback in Burrow, but it does have Purdy and Richardson on the taxi. So it looks like it's just kind of gearing up for a run towards the bottom where they can, really boast next year. I think they do have the division's best taxi squad with Shane, Watson, London, as two quarterbacks, as players on the taxi squad, and that's Christian Watson there. And it's got 3 firsts in 2024. So, there's some firepower to draft. Javonte, Zay Flowers, Hollywood Brown, Washington, and Woods at tight end feel like building block pieces for years to come as opposed to this year. Noisy Silence, this team is kind of an interesting situation with no first-round pick next year. It has nice building block pieces like Stroud, Tua, Ritter, quarterback, but Rachaad White, Monty at running back feels a little bit light. And then Lamb, Metcalf, and Dobbs at receiver, again, is pretty light, even though there's some top-end talent there. The team really isn't built to win this year, but it is on its way up, and building out of the later rounds of the draft positions does present a challenge with no first-round pick. Dutchy 13, this is another rebuild team with 2 rookie firsts next year and a great taxi squad to build for next year and it has players like Pitts and James Cook and Bryce Young and Bijan and Quentin Johnson. And, there's other pieces like Pickens, Charbonnet, Swift, Sky, Nico Collins, Bellinger, Freiermuth. So it does have a lot of pieces to build around, but again, it's in rebuild mode and it won't be challenging, which allows those other teams to work their way into the playoffs when you have this many rebounds happening at the same time. Boys 21, this is another, fringe team that I believe will just be on the outside of the playoffs unless, it makes some moves and gets that 6th spot. So, it's not a total rebuild, but with 2 first-round picks, it, has the firepower that it can make a move if there's a division title to be had. It does have some rebuild ability as well, though, with 3 quarterbacks with Howell, Love, and Pickett, all younger players. But then it also has older pieces like CMC, Kupp, Ridley, Cordell, which it could trade away for more younger pieces, depending on how the team is situated when it comes to the trade deadline. Walker, Ayuk, Dotson, Kmet, Ottman, and Gibbs, Mayer, Musgrave are all additional pieces really to build around for this team. So there's a lot of opportunity there to really build around. Cellar Dweller, this team did finish second place coming from the 3 seed last year and got into the money. So it made some money. It's light at quarterback, though. And I think that's going to find it really hard to compete this year with just Tannehill and Stafford as the top 2 options. And, just one injury away from not really having much to do there. Chubb, Connor, Kamara, CMC, are a part of this team. And I was thinking I saw CMC somewhere else in this, thing there. So maybe I made a mistake there. So as I was looking through, but it doesn't have any draft capital until 2025. So it's sold everything possible. Kittle gives the team 1 tight end, but we start 2. So without any additional tight end to speak of, it's kind of light, there. And I think this team is back to rebuilding as we speak. Barry, 587. This is actually the team that won. So if it repeats this year and wins again, it will take home that Empire pot. So it does have that ability to get back to the playoffs, I think. However, I don't have it in the top 2. So it's going to have to come from the Wayback Machine. And it is anchored by the wide receiver room. And Justin Jefferson, Waddle, Devonta Smith, and Bateman, really make for a nice wide receiver room. The running back room, Najee and Derrick Henry is solid. And it has the handcuff of Spears right behind it. So it does, keep that Tennessee Titan running back room, intact. Trevor and Mac Jones give it some nice quarterbacks at the top, but there isn't much behind. And the tight end room is kind of lacks that depth. The team was the number 4 seed, though, last year with a 9-5 record. So it just got hot at the right time. So that same thing can happen twice. If you believe lightning strikes twice, it could really happen here. As we take a look at our first team that I think is going to be in the top two. That's Shippa 19. And this team finished as the 2 seed last year. So I'm going to put it right back into the same spot, go into the tournament. It has Jimmy G, Daniel Jones, and Russell Wilson. However, Jimmy G and Daniel Jones do share a bye week. So there is a bye week trouble there with this quarterback duel. So, a move probably to make or something to do there in the quarterback situation. Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, I think he'll end up somewhere where he's playing. Jacobs, I think he'll play. And Pacheco, I really think that there's some room there and a nice running back room because I think all 4 will play meaningful snaps this year. Devontae Adams, Evans, Mooney, Tony, A-Rob, Woods, enough there for 4 spots as well. And then Okonkwo and Dulcich for the tight end room, make it young. And then, having Henry and Hurst there to kind of add some veteran depth in the tight end room and not be taking zeros is an important piece as well. And so I think that this has a good shot at even if it needs to use his 2024 first, to go get an additional piece for the playoff run, I think it has the firepower to go get it done. And then the last team that I have going to the final 2 and into the big playoffs is Miley R0568. And this quarterback room has Hurts and Fields. So they're full cheat code quarterbacks, which really matters in a Clownhead league with the scoring the way it is. And they can really do that. It also has some handcuffs for as Mariota, but it also has the handcuffs in Denver and also in Baltimore. So a lot of offenses that hopefully have some firepower and some running ability with those handcuffed quarterbacks. So the cheat code quarterbacks seem to be there. Even if there's some injuries, they'll be able to be subbed in. Hooker's a project quarterback that's going to be on the IR, but something for the future as well, and maybe a piece to trade. And then Ramondre, Etienne, Sanders, and Bijan anchor the running back room. So a lot of room there for some firepower in the running back room. And I said Bijan is Brian Robinson is the running back that is on this team. Too many Robinsons in our league, I guess. Diggs, Amon-Ra, Juju, Addison also give some nice bench options, behind those big 4 receivers or big 5 receivers. And the tight end room of Schultz, Hawkinson, and Knox feel like that gives a solid amount of depth as well. So top to bottom, where they may lack some firepower, I think this team has enough depth and it can make some trades to get over the top. And so that's why I have that team also in my top 2. So interested to hear from Dan and hear how it compares to the simulation of 100 teams or 100 games, I should say, or 100 league years.
Yep. It's runs 100 simulations of a season. And what it does is it gives us a breakdown of all the chances and the amounts of wins for first and second place. And the team that has the most chances to finish first is 43 out of 100, which would be Hard Knocks. And our second place with 41 out of 100 chances to become first place is the Dutch Dynasty. So you are talking the Dutch Dynasty and Miley R0568. I believe that's who you had for both of them, right, Ed?
No, I had Shippa and Miley R.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. So Miley R and the Dutch Dynasty are the two teams that the simulations project to finish first.
Well, so I guess Shippa's going to be liking me, and the Dutch Dynasty is going to be shoving it in my face when they follow the simulation. So I guess that's how that's going to work. But yeah, fun breaking down Division G. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and follow us each and every week as we break down what happens. For now, that's the Fantasy Football Clown Show.